You're listening to a special edition of We Get Work, recorded live from Workplace Horizons 2025 in New York City, Jackson Lewis's annual labor and employment law conference. Over 500 representatives from 260 companies gathered together to share valuable insights and best practices on workplace law issues impacting their business today. Here's your personal invitation to get the insights from the conference delivered directly to you. We'll see you in 2026. Well, welcome to the Live from Workplace Horizons 2025 We Get Work podcast studio. I'm sitting this afternoon with Amanda Simpson, principal in the Orlando office of Jackson Lewis, and Allison Dearington, principal in the Hartford office of Jackson Lewis. Ladies, welcome and thank you for taking the time to sit behind the podcast mic today. First, going to ask you a really easy question. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, your practice, and really what's on the minds of employers this year as you talk to them every day.
Absolutely. So I'm the co-leader of the firm's hospitality restaurant industry group. And since that's what our roundtable is about, not only is it my focus being in the greater Orlando area and nationwide, but there's really been a question of what comes next, especially in the last 100 days, and staying in tune to the workforce with the administration being focused on immigration and how that can impact the hospitality industry as a whole. So both advice and counsel, and then guiding employers when they are faced with some of those issues.
Allison.
Yeah, and similarly, so I'm the office litigation manager in the Hartford office. My practice primarily focuses on employment litigation and advice and counsel. I do a lot of work with hospitality clients, mainly in the realm of wage and hour class actions. So I would say that that's largely what I see continue to be a focus, especially with the new administration. We're always looking at how the wage and hour laws might be impacted. We're seeing sort of overhaul of administrative agencies, focusing on regulations. And so I would still say wage and hour continues to be a hot button issue.
So you hosted the Hospitality Roundtable here at Workplace Horizons, a great opportunity to really understand what's on employers' minds. So what came up? What issues were covered during your roundtable?
Well, Allison hit it on the head. Wage and hour was number one. And it really makes sense from an industry focus, because what we've realized at Jackson Lewis, and we're training our attorneys on internally, is there is a whole different world of compensation and terminology and industry-specific roles that are so nuanced that employers in the hospitality industry really need to be in tune to those. Their outside counsel needs to be in tune to them. And as Allison indicated, there are always pitfalls in the wage and hour space. So we talked, about how employers are being creative in approaching. I saw an article this morning where, Americans are over tips. They're sick of it. They're avoiding those screens with tips. They're staying at home. They're using cash, right? And so that really started the conversation on service charge models, going to minimum wage, keeping the tips, having those conversations with their employees, because ultimately they said, you ask your employees, what do you want? What makes you happy?
So Allison, a lot to talk about, right? I mean, things change every day, but it seems like it's accelerated. The pace is accelerated. So what were some of the other issues that were really on the attendees' minds as you had your roundtable discussion?
Yeah, one of the things that's so nice about our roundtable is I learn from our clients. So, one interesting topic that came up is just engagement. And we've been talking more broadly in the conference about how do you keep employees engaged, especially when you have multiple generations in your workforce. So we talked a lot about, with this younger generation coming into the workforce, using social media to kind of keep them engaged and highlighting their contributions on social media as a way to kind of recognize their talents is something really important to them. We also talked a lot about accommodations, as we're coming out of this, post-COVID world and a lot of employees getting used to working from home. Like, what does that look like when you're trying to get employees back into, the office, back into to, the workforce. So those I definitely think were two topics that, separate from wage and hour, we spent a lot of time on.
Right. So Amanda, I'm sure we sat across this table last year at Workplace Horizons 2024. What do you think are some of the most significant changes that have taken place? And we know there have been a bunch of changes, but particularly for hospitality employers.
One thing that we heard that was actually very surprising to me, but it made sense, was they're receiving less employee concerns and complaints. And so we really discussed why they thought that was happening. And I think it goes back to what we had talked about at the beginning, right? There's a lot of unknowns. We're in the first 100 days. There are concerns with immigration, other things. And so they're also listening to their employees and having that engagement to deliver on what they want. And they're seeing that that's working, that there's less internal complaints, there's less complaints going to agencies, et cetera. And so it's actually a pretty productive, happy workforce focusing on, the various generations and what they want. And it was really nice.
It's amazing. And as we all talked about, one of the great things about a roundtable, as you mentioned, is actually getting our clients, right, to talk back to us in an environment where it's not pick up the phone, I have an issue, right, and really learning from them. So, Allison, when you take that back to the office, how do you translate that? How do you add that to how we're already helping clients in the hospitality sector?
Yeah, so I think it's a lot about being proactive rather than reactive. So we're making sure we are monitoring legislation, right? We are keeping our check-it surveys updated, and we are giving our clients access to a lot of different content, whether it's through podcasts, articles, blogs on our website. That's one important piece of it. But I also just think our industry knowledge, is the second truly important piece, understanding the business, making sure our lawyers understand the business and that we're giving practical advice. It's one thing to say, here's the law, but really our clients want to know, how does that impact my industry specifically? And I think that, we do a great job of that.
Yeah. And the industry roundtables at Workplace Horizons every year give us an opportunity to really get that feedback. Amanda, Allison, thank you so much for joining us in the studio this morning. Hope you had a wonderful conference, and we will see you next year.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Jackson Lewis's podcast, We Get Work. Focused solely on workplace issues, it is our job to help employers develop proactive strategies, strong policies, and business-oriented solutions to cultivate a workforce that is engaged and stable. Please tune into our next program, where we will continue to tell you not only what's legal, but what is effective. We Get Work is available to stream and subscribe on your streaming platform of choice, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. For more information on today's topic, our presenters, and other Jackson Lewis resources, visit jacksonlewis.com. As a reminder, this material is provided for informational purposes only. It is not intended to constitute legal advice, nor does it create a client-lawyer relationship between Jackson Lewis and any recipient.